nerdy.
I think the nerd looks quite good.
Okay, well, I've got the jumper on, haven't I?
Exactly. I
suppose.
mean, you want the full force of the glass.
Of the nerd.
Yeah, you want
You want the
full force of the nerd. And you've got to do the voice as well.
So this is SE Electronics, and these are the microphones.
If all you're gonna do is take the mic out,
No,
of
I'm
me
just
for
gonna-
this
I'm
video,
gonna- I'm
then
gonna
you can
just-
go away.
I'm just going to sit here and look lovely.
Hello, I'm James,
And I'm Imogen.
and we are from Esh House Audio in Blackburn.
A recording studio in Creative Hub, aren't we, James?
Yes, we are. Some interesting stuff has happened fairly recently, a few months ago.
Boris has said that we might be able to do parties again.
Oh my god.
That's fun. That's always a good time.
Anyway, we've had the chance to work with SE Electronics, haven't we?
Yeah,
Which is awesome. They sent us some toys, didn't they,
they did.
to play with. SE are a family-run company. Most of their stuff is built by hand, and I believe all of it is built in-house as well. Whether it's their kind of lower-end, more affordable microphones, or whether it's their, studio level, or the Rupert Neve stuff that they've done, you're safe in the knowledge that, it's not just been kind of like launched out by any old assembly line out like that, which is quite interesting, isn't it? Because there's not enough companies doing stuff like that these days.
A lot of companies focus on the marketing side of their products, and that's where they pummel all the money into.
Pummel.
Good word, pummel's a good word, but that's where they pummel all the money into. So they've got these amazing social media presences, loads of followers, loads of fans. The marketing team's on point, doing all these funny posts. They're staying relevant, and then you use the products, and you're kind of like, oh well, that's underwhelming. It's like last year we had the opportunity to work with another microphone company. It was probably about a year ago now, and loads of hype about them. Yet we used their microphones, and we've tried to film a video for them, and we didn't test the mics out before we took it to the video stage. We were kind of like, so let's see how it sounds, and then we'd see how it sounds, and we'd be basically just moaning about them. We did a 40-minute video, and it was just James being like, yeah, not a fan.
Yeah.
So we couldn't post it. We
There
let
were,
it go.
there were times where it felt like they were trying to reinvent the wheel, but they just did it badly. Anyway, that's...
SE on the other hand...
Don't get me started on that. Yeah.
SE, on the other hand, have spent a lot of their time and money on researching and developing the actual product itself rather than the market. They still have great marketing.
Yeah.
They've just put less money into that and never put more money
Yeah.
into actually building incredible products.
The way they do their market research as well, and the research and development on the products is different. So there's a lot of companies who will pay certain stars and stuff like that to have them. The nice thing about SE is instead of trying to get like a big artist to use their microphone and paying a record label or a management company a lot of money to be able to do that, what SE do is they get their microphones to genuine kind of working professionals, don't they? Like people a little bit lower than...
People like us.
Yeah.
Workhorses.
Yeah, exactly. And the nice thing about that is they get genuine, honest feedback about it instead of just kind of getting, oh, it didn't do very well on Instagram or something like that. It's like, with respect, it's not necessarily what the product looks like or how well influencers think it looks online when they're doing a YouTube video. It's about how good it sounds. And I think people forget that a lot. I'd rather have something that looks dog ugly but sounds absolutely like astonishing, because then you just get a better product, don't you? It's like...
But these, just to clarify, these are by no means ugly microphones.
No, that's the
This
nice
is just
thing.
like a general point. It's like you get a lot of gear that's like all style and no substance. And
What's
this,
the phrase?
all fur coat and no knickers is what you get with quite a bit of gear.
And that's not just microphones. That's across the
yeah.
board, isn't it? You can tell when a company spent more on how the way something looks than how it sounds.
Yeah. Whereas these, they look great. You take them out, they feel sturdy.
Oh yeah.
I mean, why not go ahead?
Yeah. Should we get one out?
Yeah, they look. But the point there was that they look great and they actually sound fantastic.
So I like them because the flat. It's like that way. So let me just say as well.
Did you just like put your finger up to me?
Yeah, because I'm going to say something that I feel like you're going to think I'm a bit weird for.
Go on.
Right? But the shape of that curve, it just does something for me. It just does. I mean, it looks so nice.
Do you mean are you just trying to say it's aesthetically pleasing, but you're being really creepy in the way you're going about it?
Probably, yeah.
I just really, the shape of it really does something for me.
Yeah, because if that was if it was just a square, then you'd be looking at it going, it's a bit boxy. Do you know what I mean? But it's got a little bit of a curve on it. It's just tiny little details like that make a massive difference to me. So it seems we're starting off with the way it looks. Mm-hmm. There's another thing I want to talk about, and you can only see it when you got a really bright light on it. But most microphone companies will just spray something black and kind of have done with it. But this has got like a little, like it's almost like a midnight glitter to it. Can you see that?
Yeah. It is beautiful.
Do you know what I mean? And it's like it's one of those things that like the closer you look at it, the more interesting it becomes, which is just awesome. Because I mean, I do just sit there and look at stuff for a lot of the time.
Yeah, it's like he'll read through books, but he's just looking at the pictures. We all know it.
Well, yeah, being a dyslexic, I'm about images rather than words. So for me, something that looks as beautiful as that does, is ace.
They just feel robust as well. Like they don't feel like you could just drop it and that's it. All your money's gone.
Yeah, so it's like on the mesh grill, they've got 2 layers of mesh. They've got a really fine one on the inside and then like a thicker one on the outside. Mm-hmm. And it's like stuff like that. Like I'm pressing in quite hard on that, and that grill just isn't moving.
Can you imagine if you were pressing it and your finger just went through it?
Yep.
Sorry, Essie.
But that's the point. It's not.
No.
It's not even bending, is it?
Chuck it against the wall, see what happens.
I'd rather not. Yeah, the point is they're bloody well made, and everything like the case that they come in. So this is the stereo pair. I've only got one here at the moment because the other one's recording the audio.
So if you were wondering why the audio sounds crispy clean,
yeah,
it's an SE4400.
You hurt me so much with that. Then. So you get this like awesome case with it. You get this awesome. Yeah, you get this awesome case. It looks like things have been. It looks like the space has been laser cut out. I don't know if it actually has or not, but everything is spot on. Like there's no movement in it at all. So it's one of them things like if you're taking them on the road, you could quite happily use these in a live venue as well. Mm. So if you are taking them on the road, you can just launch them in the back of a Sprinter and not worry about. Well, to be fair, they're flat anyway. So if a bass cab did fall on them,
yeah. So what do you get in the box, James?
So in the
What's in the box?
You get both microphones. You get a cradle for each microphone that somehow breaks physics, but I'll explain that later. You get a stereo bar with it, which, may I add, is the chunkiest stereo bar I think I've ever held. I've never seen one that big before.
It's a chunky girl, isn't it?
It is a chunky girl. And you also, and I really liked this touch, you also get spare, I don't know if you see them, but you get spare elastic bands for your cradles, yeah, and there's enough to redo both cradles, so it's not just like they've given you 1 or 2 spare elastic bands. Mm-hmm. There's 4 of them, and each cradle takes 2 elastic bands. So with that, arguably you're good for the next like 10 years. You know,
unless you do chuck them against a wall.
Yeah, but even so, I think they'd survive. Anyway, and you also get some little...
And we're about to find out!
You also get some little mic thread adapters and stuff like that.
You get a lot of bang for your buck on just first glances. Like when if you've never used these before and you've ordered them and you've paid quite a bit of money and you're waiting for them to turn up and then they turn up, you open the box, it feels special.
It does.
It feels like you've got there's layers, but it's like you're opening it and you're like, oh, there's that. It's the element of surprise, isn't it?
It is, yeah, because
which is nice.
It is, because you always want to open something up and get that feeling that someone cares about it as much as you're going to care about it. And it really does feel that way with these. Like Imogen said, straight out the box. The other thing is, most microphone companies that do bother to put like a serial number on them generally just kind of put like a little print on them, don't they, or something like that. But SE have actually like laser engraved it and then put paint in that engraving. So it's like, it's just that extra level of detail that most microphone companies just don't, especially at this price point. To be fair, right, okay. So it's about 850 quid for the pair, which seems expensive, but when
It's a lot of money. Like
it is.
it is a lot of money. You know, that's a decent chunk. Whether you're a professional recording studio or whether you're using it for home, that is a decent chunk
Yeah.
of your wage, isn't it? To
Yeah.
spend on something. So
You've got to know that you're going to earn it back.
yeah.
Yeah.
Or even so, you've got to know that it's kind of worth what you're paying for it.
Yeah.
At the very least.
Yeah. So it is. It's definitely worth what you're paying for it. Because, so think about it. For one of them, so if it's 850 quid for the pair, it'd be about, or it'd
Go on, do some maths.
it'd be just over 400 quid, won't it? 425 quid.
There we go. Oh, he did it.
If we're going to split it in half. So for one of them, for a 400 quid mic, it's got to be good enough, hasn't it?
Yeah.
May I just add? Okay, so we do have a Neumann U87AI, don't we? And it's about the $2,000 mark. And it's known to be basically the vocal mic. isn't
Yeah,
it?
you can't get better. You can just get different ones, can't you?
Yeah. It's one of those things. Generally speaking, the U87i is the go-to for vocal mic, and that's $2,000. So if you've got a 400 quid mic that's like not just at the same level as a U87AI, but making it sweat a bit, then that is a bloody good place to be, isn't it? We kind of put off doing this video straight away because we wanted to get to know them better and really kind of know the ins and the outs of them. So I've used them on pretty much, actually correction, I've used them on every session for the past 2 or 3 months, something like that. And to be perfectly honest, if I lost the Neumann tomorrow, would I be able to carry on recording in the same way that I do? Yeah, if I had these. If I lost these tomorrow, would I be able to carry on recording the same way that I've been recording over the past couple of months? I don't think I would. Genuinely.
These are bold statements. You are really making bold statements.
I know.
These comments are going to be very aggressive. I can already see it now. From seasoned sound engineers who are stuck in the ways.
That's not to say that the Neumann is naff, because it's not. It's worth what you pay for it. The point that I'm trying to make is that I think SE could easily sell these for the same price that Neumann are selling theirs for, and I think people would still pay it because that's genuinely how good these are. They're not aiming to be a U87, and I know.
Yeah,
that.
It's not like you don't really see them in mic shootouts. Like which is better? It's just that's our comparison in terms of.
I was like, what's the best microphone that we've got?
Yeah.
Won it. That was the point, wasn't it? It's like, what's the best microphone that we've got?
How does it stand up?
Yeah, and arguably, I think these are more versatile than the Neumann, because the Neumann can sound a little bit harsh and glassy on some stuff, whereas these just sound warm and full on anything you put it in front of. Because of the price point as well, you don't mind launching them dead close to a guitar cab, because it's like, well, I doubt they're gonna break, because they don't feel as fragile as the Neumann. You really don't mind putting them in kind of sketchy positions sometimes, a little bit closer to a drummer. And all that kind of stuff, because you know that they're going to end up, that they'll be able to take the beating, whereas there are some other microphones 4 times the price of these that just can't take that kind of punishment. So to get something handcrafted that sounds as good as this, that looks as good as this, that's as low profile as this as well, for the price that they're selling them at, is just unbelievable. Yeah, I honestly, I'm not just saying this, I don't understand how they can do it and other companies can't.
Maybe that's what's setting them apart.
Well, yeah, it's one thing that definitely made us take notice, wasn't it? And that's why we.
Because you could argue that you got the, I call them the Sex 1Ts, but the SE X1Ts.
Yeah.
Because obviously they had good reviews and they were a low price, but you got them and you were just like blown away, weren't you?
Yeah.
And that was 3 years ago. 3 years ago.
It was about 3. Was it longer than that?
Maybe 4. Who knows?
Yeah.
But either way, you're just like, how are these so cheap?
Yeah.
So I think the general consensus with our experience with SE microphones is that they're almost undercharging for what the versatility you get, for how they look, how they feel, the materials they're made out of, just how special they feel, how good they sound, how many things you can use them on. I've just basically used about 4 different ways of saying versatile, but for what you can do with them, it feels like they should be charging more.
Oh, 100%.
And you definitely feel like you're getting everything you pay for and more whenever you have one.
Yeah. So the shock mount. The shock mount really confused me when I first got my hands on it. I remember
you sitting there opening up and being like, where's the rest of it? Like, what's going on? How does this work?
it is a little bit confusing when you're first looking at it. You're like, how does that work? Especially if you ping off the elastic bands and then because it's basically just like two C-shaped bits of metal that one sits inside the other like that. It is really confusing, but again, this is SE's attention to detail. Most microphone companies, when they put the rubber bands in the shock mount, just use like a standard hook like that, or if they are cutting into the end of a piece of metal, then it's just a straight line. What SE have done is they've drilled a hole and then cut a line to it. So to actually get I don't know if you see this, but to get the rubber out, you've got to actually pop it out of a groove. Can you see that? It's like a circle with a line into it, isn't it? And it just means that it's not, when you're adjusting it, I can be as harsh as I want with that.
And they're not just going to ping off.
Yeah, none of them are pinging off. The amount of times I've almost lost an eyeball from the U87 because I've been adjusting it tiny, and then one of the bands will just go bing. Bloody hell! Do you know what I mean? You are not going to get that with that, and it's that again attention to detail that just stands out for me. Now, I do have one gripe about this.
Gripe?
Yeah.
What a word.
It's one tiny little issue that's stopping
it from getting a 10 out of 10.
Well, no, because he's getting a 10 out of 10. This is stopping it from getting an 11 out of 10.
Oh, really?
Yeah, genuinely. Or two things, right? The first one is the size of this wing nut here. Now, I know the wing nut has to be small because of where it is. For me, with big
banana hands,
fat, chubby, yeah. What
big banana hands.
What did he say in Shrek? Is it big sausage fingers or something like that?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Big Cumberland sausage hands.
Yeah. I find it difficult to manoeuvre that when the microphone's in place. And the clip that keeps the microphone in is made out of plastic. If they could make that out of metal... I mean, I don't...
Do you think there's a reason why it's made out of plastic as opposed to metal?
Yeah.
Is it cost, would you have said?
No.
Or flexibility?
I think it's flexibility. I don't think it's got anything to do with trying to save money.
It's more from so that it's easily get in and get out without...
Yeah.
Without scratching or...
Yeah. Well, that's another thing. It could be so then it doesn't scratch the microphone. Yeah. I'm not 100% sure on that. I'm just trying to look at, in 10 years' time, say... Because if you're spending that much money on a microphone, you want it to last a long time. In 10 years' time, say, what are the weak parts about... Well, there's no weak parts to the microphone that I've seen so far. They all feel properly sturdy. Mm-hmm. Even the little micro switches, quite often, they feel a little bit tacky on microphones. But on these... Mm-hmm. I don't know if they've built a spring into them or what, but it does feel like if you accidentally drop it, they've got room to be pressed in and then come out again. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, there's something going on there, isn't there?
Yeah, it's again, I think they've thought about it. Or it feels like they've thought about it.
It just feels like every single tiny little detail has actually been calculated and not just, oh, that was the cheapest option, or that's what we can get in bulk. It's like they've gone, what can we do to streamline this and make it last as long as possible while sounding really good? And then they've just gone ahead and done it.
Yeah.
And it just feels like that's the general theme for every single aspect of the creation of them. Yeah. Sorry, continue telling them the bad points.
It's literally just, for me, that wing nut is too close to the centre of the cradle. If they could move, if they could elongate this whole thing, so then that part of the cradle sat out here, and it was further away from the microphone, just so then you can get better purchase on that, then yeah, it would be an 11 out of 10 for me. But if all
Do you reckon there's a reason why that's so tiny?
I think...
Just to be slick.
I think they've made it so small... because they want to keep the weight of the microphone close to the centre of that pivot point. Because obviously, if you've got a pivot, the further away the weight is from the centre of that pivot, the harder you've got to tighten the thing up, which means that you're potentially going to end up damaging it. So I think they've tried to keep the weight of the microphone as close to that pivot point as possible.
Yeah, but then for someone like you
For someone like me.
Big fingers.
Maybe it's just a me problem. What do you think?
Oh, I'm not a very good test because I'm too far in the opposite direction. Because for me, that's like, oh, what a lovely little perfect me-sized thing. Wingnut.
Yeah.
Because for me, I'm like, oh, what a perfect, lovely little me-sized wingnut. I love that. But then I've got child fingers. I've got literal child hands. So somewhere in between, maybe, perhaps.
Yeah.
So get on that, Essie. We're obviously going to inspire
Oh,
change
yeah, can you
within the
imagine?
company.
That's literally the only gripe.
And
I've
that
got.
is like absolutely picking it to tiny little pieces. Like the only negative thing we can say about the microphones isn't even about the microphone.
Yeah.
It's about, and it's not even negative, it's just like a partial comment. Is that it's ever so slightly small and finicky. But yeah, if that's the only bad thing, then they're on to a winner, aren't they?
What have we used it on?
Every single session. We've used it on a metal band, we've used it on pop vocalist,
Yep.
we've used it on a kind of folk singer-songwriter, we've used it on rock, like a dance rock, we've used it on some
alt rock.
Caribbean music,
Yes.
we've used it on some, was it Bangra? Is that the right word for it?
Bangra? Oh, yeah, it was, that was like Bollywood inspired.
Yeah, we've used it on rap.
Yeah, we've used it on rap.
So it's basically all these different styles, and the SE is just shining in all of them.
Yeah. With the metal band, actually, it was,
I suppose it would make sense to talk about how we've used them rather than just room mics and all of them.
the metal band, actually, it really dug me out of a ditch. We were recording the metal vocalist through the U87 because it's generally my go-to vocal mic. And with the kind of scream and the growl
There's a lot of air and a lot of bubbles popping in your mouth, and there's a lot of like spit flying about, and the Neumann is just so
brittle.
Yeah,
On the top
and
end.
And it just picks so much up that if you've got a singer who's particularly scratchy, raspy, a lot of spit flying about, getting loads of spit flying about in my mouth now just talking about it. But if you have that, you can come into issues, can't you, where it's just really picking it up, and then that can cause problems further down the line when you're
with
trying to
compression and all
compress
that
it,
kind of
and when
stuff.
you're trying to add melodyne. Not that you need it, but when you're trying to add stuff, it just causes issues, doesn't it? Whereas when you put the SE up,
Well, that was the thing. We did an A/B, didn't we, on that session, and we decided that actually the way forward was to use them both in tandem, wasn't it? Because the Neumann picked up the really kind of high, airy frequencies really well, but it didn't really pick up that much else of that particular vocalist. The microphone that was doing the heavy lifting was this. It picked up that warmer sound and kind of the growl a lot, so much better than the Neumann did. So yeah, it was one of those things for that session. It was kind of like resting on this. There's been other sessions where I've only used the audio picked up from this, for the vocals. But I've used it on bass guitar. I've used it on guitar. We've tried it on piano. I used them on. They've now become my overheads for the drum kit. Replacing some custom made ribbons that we had, and the ribbons are copies of Royer 121s, which anyone obviously that knows about microphones will know that Royer 121 is like as good as you can get with ribbons, arguably. There's ribbons and there's
I love how we keep saying arguably, so that we're like anticipating people arguing in the comments. So we're just like arguably.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's one of them, isn't it? So yeah, for these, I mean, I know ribbons are different to condensers. They pick up stuff in different ways. But for them to replace some custom made ribbons is really like it's
some good going.
Yeah, it is. It genuinely is.
Especially because before having these, we would have said similar things about the ribbons, and now they've kind of been replaced.
Yeah, the ribbons have kind of just been pushed into a bit of a corner now, haven't they?
Poor things.
They don't
they
get
great,
used as much.
But
I do love them, yeah, but there's nothing like the presence on these. They're just really well balanced in every single way, sonically as well. Like you don't listen to them and go, "Oh, that's a bit harsh." Oh, it's just like you can plug it in. See, this is why I think these would be really good to record at home. So, I mean, we've got a mixing desk with analog EQ on it and all that kind of stuff, but I barely have to touch it with these. it's like if you're recording from home, you don't have the luxury generally to have that EQ there. Normally it's all done on the computer. So if you can get closer to that finished product just via mic choice, then I'd say spend the extra money, get one of them, and straight away you're working with a better product. I cannot recommend these highly enough, to the point where actually I've come up with a theory, and I'd love to be able to test this out, but my theory is that you could get rid of all of your microphones in the studio and just have enough of these, and you would be able to record everything perfectly. Genuinely, that is my bold statement of this
SE,
video.
when you watch this,
Yeah,
you know
I would
what
love
to
to get.
send.
I would love to get my hands on enough of these to be able to mic up a full drum kit, bass amp, all that kind of stuff.
I'd be interested. I would genuinely really interested to hear from people who disagree, who have these, who've used these, who found things that they don't work on, because
Yeah,
for us, it's been a case of, oh, stick it there, works. Oh, try it on this, works. Oh, why don't have you? Oh God, what do we do? Works. So the idea that someone could, say, oh, I tried it on this and it didn't work, would be like really interesting. Obviously, conditions, it's all circumstantial.
Yeah.
They might have a different type of room, what they're recording, everything. There's so many different factors at play.
different preamp. that
But
might
for
not
us
agree
to
with
have
it.
used it in different locations, on different instruments, in so many different ways, with so many different musicians, and for it to have just come out on top every single time, it would be very strange to hear horror stories about these mics. But we are
Yeah.
intrigued. Please do tell us any horror stories.
Yeah.
And we'll just delete them so that so that SE.C. No, I'm kidding.
No, I get the feeling that anyone that does have a horror story about these, or anyone that does...
I feel like I know what you're about to say. Anyone who has a horror story is using them wrong. Is that what you're about to say?
Normally with a microphone, when we get a new microphone in this room, I spend a bit of time walking around the room, with some in-ears in, and walking around the room, listening where that microphone sounds best. With these, I was walking around the room trying to go, is there a bad spot for these? Like, how do I make these sound like crap? Where's the weak point? And I haven't found it yet. There will be one. There will be something that...
And again, if you found something it doesn't work on, let us know, and we're willing
I will try. I'll try it out.
That can be the next video. You let us know in the comments the places that you think it might not work, or that it hasn't worked for you, and our next video can be us trying to make these sound bad.
Yeah.
So
Because I don't think it's doable.
do you reckon?
I love them to bits. Go out and buy them now.
And
Thanks to SE for sponsoring this video.
Oh my God.
genuinely though, thank you very much to SE for sending these to us. They are fantastic. We are super happy with them.
Genuine game changer.
Yeah, we can't wait to keep using them on more stuff. Can't wait to see what everyone says in the comments in terms of using them on different things. Like, let us know your good stories, your bad stories, and we'll be back with another video hopefully soon. Now that we've tested them, and now that we can actually make proper videos about them because we've used them on so many things.
Yeah. I have just realised the type of person who is going to not like this microphone.
Go on.
And it's someone who has spent probably double the amount on AKG 414s.
Do you reckon?
Yeah.
If that's you, let us know.
If I'd have spent double the amount that these cost on a pair of AKG 414s and then heard these, I'd have been mortified.
Oh, well, I hope that's not anyone watching, because that would be really upsetting.
Yeah.
But yeah, if that's you, we are sorry, because we have just exposed you as...
Well, if that is you, then let's do a shootout together.
Yeah, come to the studio.
Let's
if
collaborate.
You want a pair of those,
Yeah.
tell us.
Bring
We'll get
them.
you in for a video.
Yeah, and let's test them out, and let's do, because I don't have a pair, but I used a pair a few years ago in uni, in the same time that I got to know these as well, back in uni, and I did prefer using these because I found them easier to handle on more things than the 414s. But again, if anyone does have them, I'd be well up for doing a collab.
A collab.
A collab.
So, it's called a collab now.
Well, how would you pronounce
A
it?
collab.
No.
So if anyone wants to do a collab, get in touch. And thank you very much, SE.
Yep.
We've been James and Imogen from Mesh House Audio. See you next time. Cool. Should we go have some dinner?
Yeah, let's do it.